Hello, my dear. How are you today? Okay, the term is coming to an end, and it is just proper that we remind ourselves key points from our lessons this term. So let's get started.
Okay, we started this term talking about anagrams. We said an anagram is a word formed by rearranging the letters of another word. For example, if I have the word star, I can write it backwards and I have rats. Amazing, not so? Now, how are anagrams formed? First of all, we form anagrams by reversing the order of the letters. For example, if I have wolf, I can just write backwards, okay? Or I rearrange the letter and I have flow. Then I can also change the position of the letters of a word. For example, in team, I can have team. Revise your lesson on that. Now, analogy, we also said it's a statement of relationship and it shows how the relationship between two words is like the relationship of two other words. For example, the relationship between hot and cold is the same as the relationship between stop and go. Now, we talked about spelling. Under spelling, we looked at a number of subtopics. Okay? For example, we looked at how to spell I before E and when to spell E before I. Okay? We also looked at compound words, we looked at contractions, even right there we looked at how to spell words that have silent letters and so on and so forth. Okay, now talking about contractions, we did say that it is a word, a short way of writing two words with an apostrophe, taking the place of the omitted letters. For example, when I have I and am, I can have am. Okay, do and not, I can have don't. So in such cases we call them construction. We also learned about compound words where we talked about those words formed when two words join together to create a new word. For example, wristwatch, okay, or even earphone. All right, we made progress to nouns and possessive forms. Okay, there we try to revise the lesson on nouns, and we were reminded of the various kinds of nouns. Did you recall that we said that apart from the proper and common nouns, that there are other three kinds of nouns, which are the concrete noun, the collective noun, and the abstract noun? In the lesson on possessive nouns also, we discussed 5 rules for making nouns become possessive. Okay? 5 rules for making nouns possessive. But first of all, we want you to understand that a possessive noun is that noun that names who or what owns or has ownership of something. In fact, for a clearer understanding of this topic, I would want you to revise those rules for making possessive nouns on pages 104 to 107 of your Language Smarts textbook. But remember, we said that just like nouns have possessive form, pronouns also have possessive forms. So examples of singular possessive noun, you can see them on the screen here. My, mine, your, his or hers, and so on. And for the plural possessive, we have our, ours, yours, theirs, and so on. Okay? Now, we also made progress into the relative pronouns. We said that the relative pronouns refer to a noun or pronoun which was previously mentioned in a sentence. They also join two parts of a sentence. And there are just 5 of them in the English grammar. They are who, whom, whose, which, and that. For a fuller understanding of this lesson, or perhaps a refreshing of your memory on what we said, go back to pages 112 to 113 of your Language Smarts. You can find the lesson there, or refer to the video we made on the blogs. Okay, now we made progress as well. We talked about verbs. I wouldn't know what do you recall about verbs? First of all, we said a verb is a word that shows first action and secondly state of being. For action, you have read, eat, sleep, and so on. And for the state of being, you have verbs like is, am, being, and so on. Okay? You just state a particular state. Then we talk about kinds of verbs as well, where we talked about action verbs, linking verbs, auxiliary, regular, irregular verbs. Even we made further incursions into what we call transitive and intransitive verbs as well. Then we talked about verb tenses. Remember, a tense is a word and it's usually a verb that tells us the time of the action of a verb. And the types of tenses we did talk about are the simple tenses, the perfect tenses, and the progressive tenses. Each of these tenses has its present, past, and future form. Okay? Yes, we did talk about that English grammar has 12 kinds of tenses. Although we couldn't exhaust them, we said you will find them appearing in some of your course content as you make progress in your studies. Now, we also came towards the end of these terms lessons discussing adjectives and how they are ordered. An adjective, of course, describes or modifies a noun or pronoun. Then, talking about types of adjectives, we discussed 6 of them: quality adjectives, quantity adjectives, numeral adjectives, distributive, interrogative, and demonstrative adjectives. Okay? Now, each of these adjectives we did talk about the function they perform in the English grammar. Feel free to make references to your textbooks and even to the videos we made on the blogs to explain them. Now, how do we order adjectives? There's a simple clue I gave you on how to do that. So we talked about an acronym that reminds you of the order of adjectives, and this is knows as come. Okay, where each of these words, of course, refers to something. N for number, O for opinion, S for size, and so on. Please just make reference to pages 134 of your Language Smarts textbook to find out what each of these represents and why we shouldn't use more than 3 adjectives in a sentence. Okay? Lastly, we ended the term talking about comparing adjectives or comparison of adjectives. I told you there are 3 degrees of comparison: the positive, the comparative, and the superlative degrees. Of course, the positive is the normal form. The adjective remains the way it is. Okay? But in the comparative, you add er. And of course, it goes mostly with single syllable subjects. Words. Okay? Then for the superlative, goes with syllables of 2 or more, um, I mean, words of two or more syllables. And in this case, you add est after the adjective. You can make reference to page 138 of your language smart book or even to the video we made on the blog to have a fuller understanding of these lessons.
Wow, it has been an amazing time for all of us. We're happy that you are able to carry on no matter the challenges. And so you are here. You are a hero.